Hi everyone and welcome to the fourth round of the Star City Games Invitational Qualifier in Doncaster. This is the legacy portion where we've had almost 100 people turn out for this event, and we have Quentin Martin playing Elves against Rob Catton playing Esper Stoneblade, the first appearance of both of these decks in this tournament. How would you see this match going usually, Lee?
Well, Elves is quite a quick combo deck. You can go off quite early, but Esper has quite a bit of discard, quite a bit of removal, and you can always fetch up his Jitte as well, which is a bit of a ball ache for Elves.
Yeah, it does feel like Elves is a bit weak to the old Jitte if it comes down fast enough. That's Inquisition of Kozilek from Rob Catton there. So, what do we see from Quentin? We see a Deathrite Shaman, a Elvish Visionary, and a Nettle Sentinel, and quite a lot of land there for Quentin.
Yeah, I think one of those lands will turn into a Dryad Arbor at some point to power up the Gaia's Cradle a bit more.
Yeah.
It seems like a reasonable kit coming in. The Visionary is really good, so Nettle Sentinel can do quite a good job at beating down as well.
What do you think overall about the way that Elves decks have been changing their builds?
The natural orders are absolutely amazing in the deck. It just gives you so much versatility. Like you quite consistently just kill people on turn 3.
And it also gives it some sideboard options, doesn't it, as well?
You can bring in Progenitors out of the sideboard, and you can natural order him up as early as like turn 2. The thing with Elves is why it's more resilient than other combo decks is you can get like Nettle Sentinel. He's got a good attack plan. You can attack with your other dudes. They are 1/1s, but they do turn sideways. You've also got Elvish Visionary, who draws you a card, and Wirewood Symbiote. He's like the all-star of the deck. He's return an elf you control to your hand, untap target creature you control. So you can just keep drawing an extra. He functions essentially as like an arena, so you're drawing an extra card every turn.
That'd be Phyrexian Arena rather than
Fight Arena.
Which has seen play in. Has seen play on. I believe that Stuart Wright had one in his deck that won a PTQ last season.
Believe it or not, it sees play, niche play, and legacy. You have when Maverick was a big deck, you had your Knights of the Reliquary fighting things with your arenas.
Seems okay. Although you might have Domri Radi doing that for you now.
Maybe.
I don't know if Maverick's still considered a power deck in Legacy the way that it was before, but is it just one of these decks where if people forget about it, it might suddenly make a reappearance?
It depends on what the rest of the format does. If the rest of the format is making dudes, then Maverick's probably bad. If the format's not making dudes, then it's probably quite good.
Seems fair enough. Quentin turning his Nettle Sentinel sideways there on turn 2.
He is on plan C.
Which is just attack
turn
with
Nettle sideways.
Yep, seems that way. That is that Cradle? Yeah. Now the Elves deck has gone through a few changes throughout the past, hasn't it? Because I remember when I was first introduced to the Elves deck, its kill was, as we see, Force of Will from Rob, who doesn't want to see Heritage Druid in play. Do you think that's a good use of Force of Will there?
It obviously means he doesn't have any removal in hand, so I'm guessing you can't really afford that Heritage Druid to resolve there, because he then casts his Visionary and then has 3 Elves. Cast wherever he draws off the Visionary, assuming it's not a land, and it does have the potential from that point to get a bit silly. Yeah.
Now, just going back to the original point, the first time I saw Elves, it was originally a deck which cast Emrakul. I mean, I first of all saw I believe it was modern version, which LSV won a Pro Tour with, which was basically just a Storm deck using Elves. And the first iteration I saw of Elves was basically an Emrakul deck, and then it moved on to the Mirror Entity version of the deck, which I believe saw a lot more play. Do you just feel that this is sort of a more natural evolution of the deck, going back to this sort of form?
The Mirror Entity version is like a truly infinite deck. You can draw all your deck, get infinite manas, because Mirror Entity turns your Wirewood Symbiotes into Elves, so they can return themselves, and then you get to use their ability again. And then, as long as you've had one guy in play, he just becomes an arbitrarily large number and turns sideways and crunches through. Now this version of the deck's a little bit more explosive than that. With the 4 mana and the Crazy Who Behemoth, it can just kill you out of nowhere. Like potentially now, if Quentin makes like three or four guys, and then natural orders into Crater Hoof, like I'm pretty sure Rob's dead. So that's apparently natural, and the natural order gives you the progenitor cyborg plan, which is quite powerful.
Yeah. Although it is still weak to the plan of perishing, which I suppose some black decks are going to have.
Perish is always going to be quite a good relevant card against a mono green deck, I find.
Very true.
So fortunately, Progenitor has protection from everything, but he is green.
Yeah. And it might say protection from everything, but apparently God is not one of these things it has protection from.
Yep. His wrath is not strong enough. Or is strong enough.
Yep, indeed. Although these days it'd be Supreme Verdict you'd be seeing rather than Wrath of God.
I mean, there's the quite upside that you can pitch it to Force of Will.
Never thought I'd be saying that in Legacy. Anyway, it looks like Quentin just had a sort of mini glimpse there on his turn there. He just glimpsed into Elvish Visionary and passed the turn.
He probably drew some more expensive creatures, I'd imagine. If he's doing that, he may have another glimpse in hand, or he's just trying to dig a bit deeper into his deck to find some action.
Yeah.
I mean, Rob's happy that this game's going at the minute. He's got some blockers, he's got a lot of mana, he's got plenty of cards in hand. He's not particularly scared of what's going on. You have to assume he's found some counter magic or some way of interacting.
I think he'd like, I think the best thing he'd like here probably be a Stoneforge Mystic, wouldn't you? So.
Yeah, he'd go get the GT and then the flyers can't be blocked. So at the moment, so they just get through, he'd get counters. Jace isn't too bad though.
That's okay. I think that's the first time he's been described as okay. But I think Rob is at this point. Do you just brainstorm and try and take your opponent out of the try and just refill your hand as much as possible?
You don't currently know what's in your opponent's hand, so fake sealing them's probably incorrect. Fate sealing yourself's probably a decent play, as he can turn 3 guys. Like, he's got enough power to kill Jace if Rob attacks with the tokens. But I do think the best play is to sit back with the tokens and just brainstorm.
Yeah. Well, Rob did fate seal Quentin there, so maybe he. I mean, he knows some of what's in Quentin's hand from his turn 1 Inquisition, so I suppose although it might all be on the table by now, so.
I think a lot of it's on the table, but I mean, it's defensible to fate seal at that point because he knows Quentin's probably looking for some action having seen his hand, but he doesn't know whether he drew it the turn before. Because if he hasn't played it after he's played Glimpse, then it may be Natural Order, maybe Green Sun Zenith, and they're quite powerful effects.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that Jace is a powerful card for sure, but he has just tapped out there, so Quentin at this point must feel that Rob's shields are down, so maybe he's going to go for as much as he can on this turn.
If he's got something to go with, I'd imagine this is the turn he's going to pull the trigger. The only thing that can stop him really from Rob is Force of Will, so let's see what happens.
I'm not sure how many cards Rob has in his hand there. It might even just be the one.
Well, if that's the case, then he doesn't even have to worry about Force of Will.
I suppose having already used a Force of Will and played spells every turn 2, 3 and 4, he can't have that much gas left, I think, at this point. And this really isn't the sort of position you want to be in Rob's place, is it? Really?
No, you definitely want to have some options. I mean, perhaps he didn't have any counter magic anyway, so he just thought, I'll just tap out and make one of my most powerful cards, and if Quentin doesn't kill me, then I'm hopefully going to run away with the game from here.
As that's certainly one of his options, but we'll see what Quentin comes up with here. Okay, so Quentin's just pulling that forest away.
It's definitely the tank about something. You'd imagine he's working out quite a long series of players.
He's got I mean, Quentin is a very deliberate player, for one thing. We saw that in the standard. He definitely takes his time about his decisions. 1 mana from Quentin, that's Glimpse of Nature, so he's obviously going for something now.
This could be a very, very explosive turn. We'll showcase what else can do.
That's Birchlaw Rangers, so he's now got at least somewhat of an engine in play. Quentin there announcing his trigger on the Nettle Sentinel, even though there's
It's just a good habit to get into, just to making sure you announce all your triggers all the time.
Now, of course, it's when he plays the spell, so he can't. He couldn't have tapped the Nettle Sentinel for mana there with Birchlaw Ranger. Keeping his Cradle untapped there, just for the absolute max mana he can get it. And here we go. It looks like Quentin's building up to a really big turn here. That's Quirion Ranger, so we've got an even larger potential for mana here. We've got a Reader. I mean, to be fair, it is a Visions card, and I don't think that. I'm pretty sure Rob wasn't playing back in Visions.
No, I don't think so. What Quentin can do is he can start tapping and untapping elves, generate quite a bit of mana, and while he's doing this, he's playing more elves and drawing cards.
Oh, Symbiote, that's the card that
Symbiote's another one that he could untap things with. So I imagine if he starts running out of gas, he's just going to return Elvish Visionary, untap one of his elves, then play Elvish Visionary, which will draw him 2. And get another untap trigger on the Sentinel.
Oh, fingers on cards time for Quentin.
That probably means he's either drawn the Crater Hoof, or he's drawn a Green Sun Zenith, or maybe the Regal Force.
It's like any of the above would be pretty devastating for Rob at this point. Tapping Dryad Arbor.
The good thing about Quirion Ranger as well is if you've started the turn with 2 creatures and have to use them for mana to get onto play, you know, you can use your Quirion Ranger to untap one of them, or untap your Dryad Arbor, as Quentin's just done there.
No, I think he's tapping it for mana and then. Not quite sure what he's like. Oh, he's returning a forest with the Quirion Ranger.
So untap the Dryad Arbor to generate more mana. It essentially turns Quirion Ranger into a Llanowar Elves that has to bounce a forest.
Which isn't so bad if the forest is already tapped.
Yeah, and you haven't played a land for the turn. It's actually an upside most of the time.
Yeah, more mana from Quentin here using the Birchlaw Ranger and Nettle Sentinel.
He's still not used his Wirewood Symbiote either.
There's a second Wirewood Symbiote.
I'm pretty sure Quentin's won from this point, but he's got to go through the motions correctly.
Yep.
So that's him returning his Elvish Visionary, I think.
Yep.
Or untapping it and returning the Quirion Ranger. Interesting. He's now going to replay the Quirion Ranger, and then he gets to use the untap on the Quirion Ranger again.
Yep.
But she's just generating a lot of mana.
This is a literal all the things turn coming from Quentin here at this point.
It's a little more difficult for him to go off smoothly because Rob managed to stop that Hermitage Druid hitting the table earlier.
Well, that's Deathrite Shaman.
We've seen a lot of him today so far.
We have seen a lot of him today. He does seem like he's one of the standout cards, doesn't he?
Yeah, it feels like they basically printed a 1 mana cost Planeswalker with 2 relevant abilities.
I mean, the third one isn't too bad.
And he taps for mana as well.
Yeah. Seems all pretty good, and Quentin has shown a Green Sun Zenith there, so we're about to get a pretty fat Crater Hoof Behemoth in
As
play.
Brad Nelson would say, he's about to hoof it.
Yep.
He could even just, if he wants to play with himself a little bit more, could get Regal Force and draw about 9 cards.
Yep.
And carry on.
But I don't really think that's the point. He's separated out the 3 creatures that were in play since the top of this turn. Crater Hoof Behemoth's going to give them all +9/+9 and trample, and I think that's going to be more than enough for Rob's life total in this game. So Quentin is going to move to 1 game up, and we will join you in game 2.